Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of the Cruise Current. This is a podcast about cruising, but it's really about the stories behind it. How people found their way into this world, the experiences that stick with us, and everything that happens along the way. I'm Ben, and each episode we'll sit down for real conversations, sometimes just sharing our own experiences, and other times bring on guests from across the cruise industry and talk about how they got where they are today. Whether you've been on 100 cruises or even just one, or you're starting to get curious about it, we're glad you're here. Here with me today, I have Matt, who is the founder of My Cruise Booker. Matt, how's it going?
Hey Ben, thanks for having me today. Really excited
Thanks
to be
for
here.
joining.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you founded My Cruise Booker about 3 years ago. So, what just interests you about cruising?
Yeah, Ben, I always go back to kind of my first cruise as an adult. I was just getting out of college, and um, there was something really special about being on a cruise. And one of my favorite things is just when you're on a cruise, there's all your food's included, your entertainment's included. You're not having to make those decisions about planning. And really what happened it was college spring break. I think it was my junior year. And I was like, hey, my parents took me on a couple of cruises growing up. And I talked to a couple of friends and I was like, hey, let's go on a cruise, and I think we got the week for like $350 a person. It was
Wow,
just,
that is actually a crazy deal.
yeah, it was such a good deal. And just one thing led to another, and next thing in the years following, there was more spring breaks planned, and friends of friends were calling me, family members of friends were calling me. I was like, boy, I think that this could be a business here, and that's really, you look at My Cruise Booker today, and that's our goal, is just helping people out, making sure that they get the best deal, and of course the best service with their cruises.
So, you said that you took, taking your first cruise as an adult. So, that sounds like it wasn't your first cruise overall. How old were you when you went on your first cruise?
Yeah, I think my first cruise, I was in middle school. I remember the ship. It was just a 4 night sailing on the Carnival Sensation.
Is
Ship's
that
no
ship
longer
even sailing
no,
anymore?
no longer in service today, but there was just as a kid, you're walking onto this massive ship, and you walk right into the atrium, and you know there's the soft serve ice cream, water slides, all the food you can eat, all the entertainment. I mean, it was really very good memories of that sailing.
So, what's been your favorite memory as a child versus maybe your favorite memory from, being an adult going on a cruise? Because obviously cruise lines just, we have our adults only ones, we have our family friendly ones, we have just, a mix of everything, like senior adults, there's just a mix of everything. So what do you think it was your personal favorite, like between, your two different, I guess, decades of travel?
Yeah, I think that as a kid, it's obviously it's the nonstop activity, right? And I think it's also the fact that on a cruise, your parents, you're all on the same ship. I think that there's a little bit more liberty if you want to go running around and go to the water slides, and so I think that my favorite memory as a child was I think it was my first cruise, just being exposed to the world of cruising. And fast forward to today, going on a cruise nearly every single month, and organizing groups of 30 to 100 people, and just being in the industry. I still go back to my favorite memories are when first time cruisers join me on a cruise. It's just there's just something so special about that um, when someone experiences it for the first time, it's just like it's something that it's hard to experience elsewhere.
I totally agree. I think one of my favorite things about cruising is also going on first time cruisers. I can think about me myself as a first time cruiser. My first cruise, you convinced me to go on my first cruise, and it took 2 to 3 months to convince me, and I wish it didn't take that long, and I wish I just would have said yes to you right away. And we had a group of first time cruisers, and it was by far the most fun experience ever. It's on the Carnival horizon, and going to Jamaica, Cozumel, Grand Cayman, especially because I have like no experience in the Caribbean. Before that, I went to Nassau like once, and we stayed at Atlantis, which you're not really exploring the destination at that point if you're staying on a resort. So it was just
Absolutely.
crazy to experience something like that. And then especially just hosting groups of first time cruisers. Like just seeing the joy, and I think you mentioned this when, when you were a kid, like what, like you walking up as a kid and seeing that big ship for the first time. Like I feel like even as an adult, they can get the exact same effect, which
Oh,
is totally
absolutely. Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, it's just I always anytime I'm driving to the port, whether it's Miami or Port Canaveral, Fort Lauderdale, just seeing the ships in the distance, it's just
Hmm.
it's so fun, and the level of excitement that you have, and I think that at least in my head, it's still so hard to conceptualize when you're on a cruise. Like, boy, I'm on a ship right now. I'm not at land. I'm in the middle of the ocean, right? And so I just think that there's something about that that's just really special.
Yeah. What has been like, so you've done cruising for over 10 years now. You've had My Cruise Booker now for, 3 years. What is like your top three like cruise hacks that you could recommend to individuals?
Yeah, I think that obviously, I always tell people fly in the day before the cruise, right? I
Yes.
think that's a really important piece of the of just your planning phase, and obviously getting ready for the cruise. Not only does it start your vacation early, but especially with flights these days and traveling, right? It's always best to give yourself ample time to get to the port. And I've flown in the same day of cruises, and it's pretty stressful, especially
Hmm.
the connecting flight.
Yeah,
You
especially
know,
because vacation is supposed to escape stress. And if you're
yeah,
starting out your vacation with stress, it's like, no, no, no. It's like the opposite of what we're trying to do here.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So just I always recommend flying the day before. Even if it's the night before, like you fly into say Fort Lauderdale at 10 p.m. right? Like you don't need to make a full day of it, but just making sure that you get there the night before. I always recommend that. In terms of the second recommendation, it's just when you first get on the ship, it might feel a little chaotic, might feel a little crowded, and so I always tell people,
Mhm.
if you're sensitive to that, just know that the cruise isn't going to be like that the entire time, right? Staterooms typically don't open until an hour before you set sail or an hour and a half before you set sail,
Mhm.
right? So just making sure that you kind of plan that day accordingly. Maybe you know eat a heavier breakfast so you're not rushing over to the buffet right when you get on board. And I think with that, I always recommend just walking through the ship the first day, get
Mhm.
orientated, make sure you know where everything's at. I think that that's a really helpful thing, especially if you're going to be on there for a week. It's like you kind of want to know
Mhm.
where if you get a message from a friend like, hey, this is where I'm going to be, you know how to get there, right?
Yeah.
And I think the third is definitely just you know going through a travel agency, right? You might not realize this, but most travel agencies don't they don't charge the consumer for what they do, right? And they get deals and perks that you wouldn't find online, right? So like for example at My Cruise Booker, we oftentimes can save families $300 to $500 just by booking through us, right? Everything is still the same. You get all the perks, you get all the loyalty, you get some onboard credit, and it saves you money, and then you get that advocate in your corner.
Mhm. I agree. I mean, I only have booked cruises through travel agents, so I don't even like know the difference of like what it's like to book individually at this point. Like I've always had someone in my corner to, help me with my cruises even before I got into being a travel agent, and I honestly could not think of you know, a way around it, especially like with deals. Like I feel like one of the biggest ones, and I actually think this is a hack in itself, like especially with like Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, like a lot of times your travel advisor can get you a refundable deposit versus if
Absolutely,
you go through
yeah.
the website, it's a non-refundable deposit, which I think is a huge perk.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. No, I think that there's so many perks that come along with it, and and I think that's something about My Cruise Booker that we really pride ourselves in is just being customer centric, right, and making sure
Mhm.
that we always put the customer first, and that's that's what's ingrained in our culture here, right, and so
Mhm.
that's that alone is worth going through a travel agency.
So, being a travel agent, and I feel like that for maybe the general public thinks it might be a dying industry because I feel like back in the day, like there was these travel agents for everything. Like based on the growth of My Cruise Booker, I mean, How much do you think this industry is growing? Do you think it's staying stagnant? Do you think it's slowing down? Like what's your personal experience with it?
Yeah, I think that I've often thought about the same thing when I was starting my cruise booker. And, I think that, we'll probably go through the history of my cruise booker, right? But,
Mhm.
to answer your question, the average person reaches out to their travel agent 11 times before they go on their cruise, right?
Is it
And
really that many?
it's that many times. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
And so whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, whether it's a phone call, right? And so the cruise lines really don't have the bandwidth to process all of that, right? And
Mhm.
that's where travel agents come into place. But I think that the biggest thing that, when we entered this space was, how do we not just be a regular travel agency, right? And
Mhm.
how do we really innovate in the space, and how do we stand apart? And in my eyes, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We take, less of the traditional agency approach, right? And our focus is really being like a broker, right? Like, you come to us and you say, hey, this is, I want to go on a cruise, this is where I want to go. Find me the best ship based on my interests. I want this specific cabin under this price, right? And we, we listen to that, but then we ultimately find you the best product, right? There are so many different cruise lines out there. Whether it's Celebrity Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian Cruise Line, Princess, Holland America, all of these different cruise lines, and they all cater to different audiences. And and that's our goal, is to make sure that we select the best cruise for what that client is looking for.
So I know you just mentioned a ton of different cruise lines there. Do you have a personal top three? And I'm going to ask you for two different top three lists because it might be different from one another. Um, your top three cruise lines for working with, and then your top three cruise lines that you personally like the best.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty easy question. I love working with Royal Caribbean and Celebrity. They're definitely the easiest cruise line to work with. They give us the best deals, best perks, and I would say that kind of going hand in hand with that, I've really enjoyed going on Royal Caribbean. It's over the past 2 years, I went from sailing on other lines to pretty much sailing exclusively on Royal. And this year I'm going to hit their diamond status in under 18 months. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, I'd stick with Royal Caribbean or Celebrity. Of course, MSC I think has a great product. Norwegian has a good product. Carnival, you're on their newer ships. There's it really just comes down to what everyone's looking for, right? And there's more intimate experiences, as you get into the smaller ship environments. And so it really depends on what you're looking for. But I would say for the groups that we're taking, families, friends, between Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, you pretty much cover all your bases there. So that's who I typically stick to.
I don't think I could agree more. I was like, my first cruise was on Carnival, as I mentioned earlier, and I was like very gung ho about Carnival, like Carnival all the way. Don't want to try anything new. The casino was great, the cruise was great, the destination was great, and then we went on Royal Caribbean for the first time, and then my entire perspective changed. And it was a 4 day cruise for our first time, and it took a 4 day Royal Caribbean cruise to change my mind on two or three Carnival cruises I've already been on. Like that is
Absolutely.
how good that I personally think Royal Caribbean is. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's coolest about them is their private destinations because they have Labadee, and which is like a beautiful private island in Haiti, and then they also have Coco Cay, which is like basically beach resort you get to hang out with that's included with your cruise. Like just I
Yeah, and
absolutely
now
love
they're adding so many different
it.
beach clubs, right? I mean,
Yes, the beach clubs.
there's going to be
Yes.
one in Cozumel, there's going to be one in Costa Maya, there's one that they're building on the Mediterranean, at
Hmm.
Nassau, right? I mean, there's so many private beach clubs that just really are a blast.
Hmm. So, favorite ship. You gotta have at least one, like one ship that you've been on several times, one ship that gives you a lot of memories. What
Yeah,
is
I mean, I think that I've had the opportunity of sailing some really incredible ships. I just was on the Celebrity Excel for the inaugural sailing here in November. Beautiful ship. Just got off Norwegian Encore a few weeks ago. But I always gravitate towards one, and it's the Freedom of the Seas on Royal Caribbean. It just, I think the mega ships are wonderful, right? If you got a big group of people, you got some kids in the family, right, looking for nonstop activity. I think that those ships are wonderful. I tend to like a more quiet environment, but still have the opportunity for the entertainment and the water slides and the pool parties, right? And I feel like the Freedom of the Seas just has a great mix of all of the amenities that these huge mega ships have, but also you have the space and you're not having to worry about finding a sun chair, and there's always room in the hot tubs and pools. And I just always find that the Freedom really has that environment that I really enjoy.
Okay, so you said the term megaship. For people that do not know what a megaship is, like how would you describe that?
Oh man, I mean, I'm talking like 5,000 plus people on board.
Oh my
Um, I mean, you can spend a week on the ship and probably not even scratch the surface of seeing it all, right? I mean, they're all mega ships, right? Every single cruise ship that's
God.
built today is a mega ship, but you're talking about the biggest of the biggest, right? And I mean, I have to say, like, I just was on the Wonder of the Seas, and beautiful ship. I mean, just I can't believe it's a cruise ship. You don't even feel like you're on a cruise ship. The entertainment, I mean, they have the aqua show with high divers, people diving from 20, 30 feet above, the water, right? It's incredible. They have an ice skating rink. Um, so just the things that you see are just incredible. And it's great. I love the Wonder of the Seas. I love the Oasis class ships. Um, but if I'm personally going on vacation, I'll probably gravitate towards a smaller class of a ship. And so
Mhm.
I think that's why I'm so excited about the Discovery class that's coming out for
Yes,
Royal,
yes.
because I love sailing the Southern Caribbean, and I think those ships are going to be heading down there. And so it's
Mhm.
going to be really nice to have a newer Royal Caribbean ship that is able to hit all of those really, the ports that you don't usually get into on a cruise out of the United States here.
And like for me personally, I do like I don't need to necessarily go on a mega ship, but I do like the larger ships right now. That's my main reason why I don't go down to Puerto Rico because I just don't like the smaller ships. I do like the more entertainment, the more things to do and something like that. But you actually did go on a smaller ship out of Puerto Rico. So like, going out of, Miami or Fort Lauderdale and versus going out of like for Puerto Rico, especially people who've never done it before, like what is the difference between like those two types of experiences?
I think that, obviously the big one is when we sailed out of Puerto Rico, it was a 7-day cruise, and we had to stop every single day except one. The first day on the cruise was a sea day, but you're talking about six ports of call, right? And that was really incredible. I mean, by the end of the trip, you almost felt like you needed a vacation from your vacation, because we
Oh
just
my
did so much exploring, and really your time was not spent all on the ship, right? I mean,
God.
you were, and the other thing is the days that when you are at port, you have a full day, right? The ship, it comes in around 8 a.m. and you're leaving at 6, right? And so to me, that just really was a cool experience. And you're seeing some places that I think we oftentimes don't think about, right? Like
Hmm.
Antigua and St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia, right? I mean, when you're looking at usual cruise itineraries, you're typically looking at like Cozumel or Costa Maya or Dominican Republic, right?
Which are
Which
all
are
still great
all, yeah, they're all
destinations.
great destinations. But these ones were just extra special because they're a little bit harder to get to.
Hmm. I agree. So, and the only time that like I've really seen like because I feel like there is some Southern Caribbean cruises out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, but then you might only get two or three good
Typically,
destinations.
they have like 3 days at sea or 4 days at sea. They're longer sailings, 8 or 9 days. Absolutely.
So then, that's really the Southern Caribbean experience. Like, how would you like describe the experience going out of like Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
Oh, I mean, it's super easy. I mean, right? You can usually get a direct flight into Fort Lauderdale or Miami or Port Canaveral, right? And I mean, the cruises are great. They're big, party cruise, or if you're on a, let's say you're on Celebrity, right? It's a little bit more relaxing. It's an elevated experience, but typically you get 3 or 4 port days. and I mean, the excursions in some of these places are just spectacular, right? You talk about, the Cayman Islands, right? You can go swim with the stingrays there and actually hold
Hmm.
wild stingrays, which is super cool. Or you can go into Cozumel and go, mini speedboat riding or ATVing through the woods, right? I mean, there's so much to do, and it's really, I mean, that's why I just think that cruising is just one of the best methods of vacationing out there.
Hmm. It's funny that you mentioned the mini speedboating because I don't know if it's my lifetime favorite excursion, but it probably has one of my lifetime favorite photos that I've ever
Yeah.
gotten taken. It is the only time I think I've paid for a photo at an excursion, and it's me and one of our friends who looks absolutely terrified, and then next to her is me having the absolute time of my life.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. No, I mean,
it.
I've seen that photo a few times, and it made me want to go do that excursion with you guys in
Mhm.
that moment, because it just looked like you guys were having a blast.
Yeah, it was like there was literally like little 30 pound, like, or not 30 pound, 30 horsepower motors, and you're like in this like almost tub thing, and like there's the carpeted hard seats, and it's a crazy experience. Like I think one thing that is super cool about cruising is the shore excursions you get to do. Like, what have been your top three like most favorite shore excursions that you've done before?
Oh man. Okay. Well, just a few weeks ago, I was in Honduras and we did this catamaran and snorkel, and it was, a lot of times on the catamarans, it's very limited in timing, and you might have an hour to snorkel, and then you're heading back to the ship, right? This one, I
Mhm.
mean, man, we were out there for probably 3.5 hours, I'd say, at the coral reef, and
Okay, wow, that's a
I mean,
long
it
time.
just massive, massive coral reef. They cooked some lunch on board for us. There was some rum punch at the end of
Like
it.
they cooked lunch on the catamaran?
Oh yeah, it
Oh
was
my gosh.
spectacular. Yeah, yeah, it was. I've never had that before, where the catamaran boat itself served lunch, right? And
Yeah, that
so
is super
it was
cool.
a delicious lunch, and then they just let us swim. That was
Wow.
probably the funnest part about it. Was just with a group of friends, and we just got to hang out, and there was, you really felt like you were on vacation in that moment. So that was really cool.
Mhm.
I'd say that's up there. I just did in Cozumel a shore excursion called Mr. Sanchoz's,
Mm.
and it's a beach club, and that was really fun. It was all you can eat, all you can drink. Um, we had our own private table there. It was, food was served to us. There was a buffet too, swim up bars. It was really an incredible time. I would definitely recommend that experience if you're in Cozumel. And then, um, again, it's hard to pick three that are my favorite, but when I was in St. Lucia, we did a catamaran sail around the Pitons, which are just these beautiful, beautiful rock formations and mountainous formations right on the coast there in St. Lucia. So that was
Mhm.
really cool, and it's what was really neat is St. Lucia is a very there's like a rainforest right near the Pitons, and you can just see the rain coming over the rainforest over the
Wow.
ocean. It rained like crazy while we were on this excursion, and then like 5 minutes later, it was sunny and 90 degrees, right? So,
Mhm.
uh, just really a cool experience.
I think my top three. I was thinking about this as you were saying yours. I think in my top three was doing the dragon zip line in Labadee, Haiti at Royal Caribbean's private island. You're literally 600 feet up, I think, and
Yeah,
you're just going down like
that's
a
awesome.
half mile over the
Yeah, and you're
ocean.
going pretty fast on that too. I
Yes.
mean, it's yeah,
But like it's crazy because like when you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like sway back and forth or like, go up and down. Like those lines are so tight. Like even with a little bit of wind, you're actually just coasting and you don't even feel like any like I guess turbulence per se at all. Like it is probably the coolest experience I did. And I tried
awesome.
shouting over all my friends when I went over at the beach, but they're like, yeah, we did not hear you.
That's
So
awesome.
and then I think another one that was my favorite. It was the very first excursion I ever did on a cruise. It was in Jamaica, and it was Blue River tubing, and that was the first time I actually
Right.
went
Yeah.
zip
Yeah.
lining. And like, but going through the just the natural rivers like the Jamaican mountains, like was just so cool. We were on these tubes and we were just with these awesome guides. And I think there was a group of like 25 of us, but the crazy part was like the roads to get there
Yeah.
because,
Yeah. Yeah.
some of these countries, it's not set up like the US is. Like the roads are not paved as well. You're going up the side of mountains. We were going literally, buses were like this, like up against each other, like
It's
trying
crazy.
not to fall
Yeah.
off.
I would not want to be a driver there. I think that when I was in Jamaica, there was one moment where I was on a bus and all of a sudden I look over and there's like two cows just in the back of like a Toyota Tacoma. I'm like, how did they get them up there?
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely amazing. And just I do think shore excursions do really help enhance a trip. I think my top memory for a shore excursion is I took my entire family on a cruise in this last December, and we rented out this private oasis on one of Carnival's private island. And we had a private butler, we had a private lifeguard, we had a private chef, we had a private bartender, and it had a
From
hot
Half
tub.
Moon Cay.
Yeah, it was at Half Moon Cay. And like we had 16 of us and just we had this dedicated team and we had this thing for 7 hours and like we were kind of worried at first because it was like storming that morning and literally the moment we got to the oasis, the sun came out
That's
and
awesome.
it was the most
That's how it
perfect
goes in the Caribbean, right? Like it calls for like they call for rain like every day, and then all of a sudden you get out
thing.
there and it's sunshines. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, I think that actually the craziest thing about like the excursion that my family did is like we only paid $140 a person to have that private
Yeah, yeah.
experience
When
in
you
the
have a
day.
big group of people, it really you're able to do those cool experiences that you wouldn't be able to
Mhm.
otherwise. I think
Yeah.
that really that leads into just the I love cruising with groups. It's just so fun.
Mhm.
Oftentimes on land vacations, like you can do some really fun land vacations with friends and in a large group, but if you fly into somewhere, there's only one or two rental cars. The plans are kind of static, right? With group cruising, you have the opportunity to, everyone gets to do what they want to do. If some people want to go to the spa, they can do that. If some people want to go play bingo, they can do that. If some people want to go to the pool deck, they can go do that, right? But then the best part about it is at the end of the night, everyone comes together for dinner.
Mhm.
And I think just having those memories of dinner and telling stories from the day, it really just pulls together the trip, and there's no planning. All you have to do is show up.
Mhm. So, how many cruises have you been on?
I would say that again.
How many cruises have you been on?
Oh man, I know it's in the past year. I think it's been like 18 or so.
Oh, in
I
the past year?
Yeah, maybe past 18 months or so. I mean, it's been quite a few. I mean, I've done a couple back to back,
Mhm.
and yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, yeah, it's been a lot.
Okay, how many cruises 2026? How many cruises have you already gone on slash what are you planning on going on this year?
Okay, so 2026, I went on one in January. That was the Southern Caribbean. Then in February, I did a short 3-night weekend cruise. It was just to the Bahamas. And then in March, I did a week long one to Honduras, to Belize, Costa Maya, and Cozumel. And then I have one coming up here at the end of April, and then one at the end of May so far, and then September. So I
You're
think that's
actually
gonna
averaging once a month at the beginning of
yeah,
this
yeah,
year.
yeah. That's the goal at least.
Oh my
But I
God.
mean, I think that's pretty similar to what you were running into these past 6 months, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I for from November through January, I think I went on 5 cruises in the span of 60 days. Like
Okay.
we
Wow.
did two back-to-back ones in November, did one in December, and then two in January. It
Yeah.
was
You
crazy. And
have your
my
hands
next one
full.
is actually next month. Exactly a
Okay.
month from today, we're going, my girlfriend and another couple friends of ours, we're going on Mariner of the Seas, and we're going down to Costa Maya and Cozumel. And we're actually doing the Mr. Sanchos's Beach Club
Oh,
because
nice.
you
Yeah.
recommended it.
Yeah. It's a great
So
place. I'm excited for you guys.
and because I think I've been to Cozumel 4 times now, so it is definitely different than what we've done before. So I'm excited. Like even going to the same destination multiple times, I'm still finding something new and different to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I really enjoy now is just trying to diversify the different shore excursions I'm doing in different ports, just to see the local culture and just really,
Mhm.
find the best thing there. And it's I always surprise myself right when I think I found the best thing, the next time around, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, this was even better. So
That's absolutely amazing. I know that we've talked about, shore excursions and destinations, but there is little ports that, we go into, when we get off a ship. Like, do you have like a little like favorite port experience that you do, whether it's like shopping or buying certain things or like a certain activity even within the port that, maybe you do it every time you go to a destination, or you're like, no, this port's just, I'm getting to my
yeah,
destination.
I love baking, and so in Mexico you can get some really great vanilla for a great deal. And so I think this last trip I flew home with 6 liters of vanilla extract. My bag,
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
it was over the weight limit when I was flying home, but thankfully I didn't get charged anything extra. So, um, no, I mean, there's so many different, all the ports have their great places. Whenever, even when I'm flying into Florida, I always try to get some empanadas, in
Hmm.
Fort Lauderdale or Miami, and then if I'm heading to Nassau, Royal Caribbean just launched their new Royal Beach Club there. Uh,
Hmm.
that's been a go-to. And then really, I mean, like the Dominican Republic, right? They have great waterfalls there. I think I've done that 3 or 4 times. There's zip lining. There's ATVing there. Puerto Rico had a great ATVing experience. It really depends on where you're heading to. But I'd say, now what I've been doing is just trying to find local beaches, right? So we were
Hmm.
in Freeport, Bahamas, last month or 2 months ago, and I took a taxi to a local beach there, and there's a little shack that was serving up some food. Got some fresh red snapper there, and there's just beach chairs, and just really enjoyed the beach and the sun. It was really nice.
That's super cool. I think part of the best thing is like just finding cool little local things. Like, we went on one of our cruises together and it was in Jamaica and we didn't have anything planned, and you and I ended up doing that beach literally last minute.
Yeah,
And it
absolutely.
was, all inclusive beach, and they had great empanadas as well. And that's definitely
Yes.
one food I know that you and I both like to get when
Yep.
we
Yep.
go into the Caribbean. So just even like little cool experiences like that. And then on the in Cozumel this last time I was there, we didn't have anything planned either. We were going to go do something else, but the water was too choppy for a small ferry to come in, so we had to stay on the island. And um, we ended up seeing the Mayan ruins
Oh, that's
in
awesome.
Cozumel, which
Yeah.
is something I would have probably never have done because I'm not I'd much rather hang out at the beach versus go, walk around a city for a little while. But like, because we had the opportunity, and we did like a tequila tasting, which I probably tried the best tequila of my life, but I couldn't buy it
Absolutely.
because it was way too expensive.
Yes.
So just
Yeah.
like
This
doing,
last trip, with a few friends and someone in our party. They went. We did the tequila tasting, and I think they started at $80 or $90 a bottle. And I think by the
yes,
time we were done negotiating, we got it for $25 a bottle. It was
really,
yes, it was
I
the
should
end
have
of
done
the day in port, and I think we were in Cozumel, and yeah, it was a great deal.
that. That's awesome. So I think a lot of our conversation so far is like, we've talked about, what goes on outside of the ship. I mean, I think let's focus on like what goes on inside the ship. Like, can you describe like what kind of, entertainment that you can find on board, or like different activities to do?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so much. I think that obviously right when you get on board, there's the sail away party the first day. That's usually on by the pool deck. Wouldn't want to miss that. I mean, that's just it's really a party, and
It's the
it just
start of your
yeah, it's
vacation.
the start of the vacation, right? So love always going to the sail away party. I mean, every morning there's always some sort of workout aerobics class by the pool deck. Like a early morning stretch, and then just as you go out through the day, right? Like on sea days, they'll have like the belly flop contest on on Royal Caribbean. They'll have the Harry's chess competition. And then, as you get into the night hours, there's just so many different venues of live music and comedians and karaoke. And then there's also the playlist production shows, right? So on Royal, they have some Broadway shows. I got to see the musical Hairspray on the Symphony of the Seas. That was really neat. I think the Wonder had a really cool show. The name is it's slipping my mind, but
Oh, the Effectors.
yes, the Effectors. That was a really advanced technological show there.
Yeah, I think it's actually the most technological show at sea, which
Yeah,
it's probably more technological than a lot of shows on land, to begin
exactly. Yeah,
with.
it was very impressive. Just great choreography, and there's so much. The Aqua Show at night on the Oasis class ships are just it's
Hmm.
incredible. So there's bingo, obviously the casino. A lot of people spend a lot of hours in the casino. So
Are you
there's
one of those people?
I put my fair I've spent my fair share in the casino. So usually not winning, unfortunately. So sometimes it's short lived, but it's you're on vacation. There's
Mhm.
just entertainment for everyone.
Do you have, and I know you've done so many cruises, so some of this has got to blend together for you because you're just having so much fun. You're obviously having so much fun because you're averaging one cruise a month to start out this year. But do you have like a top three like favorite like entertainment that you've seen on a ship?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love live music, right? And so I remember it was not this past January, but January of 2025. I was on the Carnival Celebration, and there was this band. It was like the backyard band, and there was this one guitarist, and he just was absolutely incredible. I mean, there was one point he was playing the guitar behind his head, then he started playing with his mouth, which
Oh my
I've
gosh!
never seen before. So that was really something.
Wow.
Um, but so I love live music. Again, like the Effectors show,
Hmm.
the Aqua show. I would say that those are top three, and the ice skating show on
Hmm.
Royal Caribbean, just really really cool. Norwegian Cruise Line on the Encore, they have the Choir of Men, and that was just spectacular. One of the best shows I've seen at sea as well.
Yeah, I think there's two favorites that come to my mind. The first one is on the Wonder of the Seas, the Aqua Show. I saw it twice on a 4-day sailing because it was just that good, and just the intro and the way they hype you up, and they're diving from like 50 feet above, and it's absolutely amazing, like
Yeah,
how long it is. So, and then the other thing too, is the ice skating show on the Utopia of the Seas. My girlfriend and I, Abby, we went on that on a 4-day cruise in January, and they had like a special guest, and he was stacking chairs on top of each other on the ice,
that's
like,
crazy. Yeah.
and he went all the way up to like touch the ceiling. He
Oh,
had like 8 chairs stacked on top of each other,
that's awesome.
like.
Yeah, the things that you see on these ships is just incredible. I mean, it's
And
crazy.
the ship is moving and he's stacking chairs on this skinny thing.
Yeah,
Like it is absolutely insane. One thing that I typically enjoy when I'm going on a cruise is like comedy shows as well. Like I love seeing good
absolutely.
comedy performance, and like especially because they're really just a variety of them. And like they might not be the most well-known name, but like they're still some of the funniest people on the
Oh, for
planet.
sure.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
it
No,
is
I mean,
crazy.
I've seen. We have a local comedy club here in Milwaukee, and it's good, but it's
Mhm.
hard to find something that compares to, especially Carnival's comedy. It's some of the best comedy I've seen ever. It's hilarious. I love how they fly people out for their halfway through the cruise if you're on longer sailing,
Mhm.
right? They rotate comedians. It's just there's some that you might not enjoy, but then guess what? There's gonna be two new comedians coming halfway through the sailing, so I really like that.
So, one thing that we didn't touch on, but I think it's a really important part of a cruise before we go is dining, especially
Absolutely.
specialty dining and main dining room dining.
Yeah.
So, like, can you describe like what that experience like? Because it's not like going to dinner, sitting down at a restaurant and ordering like normal. Like it is
No, I
actually
mean,
part of the
yeah.
experience.
So, of course, a lot of cruise lines, except Virgin, they have the buffet, right? It's running breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And, it's all you care to eat, right? It's great. Great to grab some breakfast there, maybe lunch, or, I always like to grab a pre-dinner, as I call it, at the buffet. But yeah, I mean, the main dining room, right? It's going to be, menus are likely going to rotate every single night. 3-course meals, you get appetizer, main course, and then dessert. One of the things that I think for first time cruisers always stumps them is you order everything at once. It's not like a
Yes.
restaurant, that you go sit down at in America, where so you order appetizers first, then your mains, and then dessert follows, right? You order everything at once, right? And
Mhm.
I always tell people, look, if you see two things that look good, order them both, right? That you're on vacation, right? It's your time to indulge, I guess. But specialty dining, I think that's something in the past 10, 15 years here that has really grown on cruise ships. I you know I A lot of times I always don't go for specialty dining because I think
Mhm.
that the main dining room has great options and the quality is good,
Mhm.
but definitely always an option there if you want you know go to the steakhouse, or maybe you want to do hibachi, or this last cruise I went on, we went to the sushi restaurant, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of different options there, and you really have a lot to go off of, right? I always tell people you're not going to go hungry when you go on a cruise ship.
If you're going hungry, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yes, yeah. You picked the wrong cruise, because I can tell you all the cruises I've been on, I've never gone hungry.
Especially like late night pizza
Mhm.
and your pre-dinners and just
Yes, yeah.
how many times, okay. Do you know what the average like number of desserts a cruiser has on a cruise every day?
Oh man, I'd have to say it's over two.
It's like 5 to 6.
I believe it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's everywhere, right? You go to the buffet, there's an entire wall of desserts.
Hmm. Yeah. If you don't leave a cruise gaining 5 pounds, then
It's funny that in the beginning of the cruise, right, the gym is always just packed. People are like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a really good start to my vacation. I'm gonna work out before I even have one drink, or
Mhm.
before I go to the buffet," right? And I always tell people, I say, just skip the gym the first 3 days, because by day three, there's gonna be no one in there. Everyone's already over it. They're all just
Mhm.
that went in one year and out the other.
And this is the last topic I want to touch on before we leave, but the staff on a cruise ship. Do the staff have an integral part on
Oh
your
my goodness.
cruise?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, these are some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. Whether it's your room steward or the dining staff. I mean, I think they really can make your experience, go from a good experience to a great experience. And just, I mean, truly, these people, they work, typically 5 days a week, or 7 days a week straight, right, for 9 to 12, 9 months plus, right?
Mhm.
And so just really, give a lot of credit to the staff, and they're just wonderful, super super great people.
That's awesome. I mean, you're making me itch to go on my cruise in a month. I wish I was going on it tomorrow.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
well, Matt, thank you for taking the time to join today on our first episode of the Cruise Current. Greatly
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks,
it.
Ben.
Have a good one.
All right.